The Legend of the Night Spinner, Episode 5. The Nightbloom. The Veluwe was quiet, but not peaceful. The night had a strange energy that even the wind seemed to avoid. The trees bent, slightly under a invisible pressure, and the mist, thick and silvery, frittered through the pines as if it had a mind of its own. The full moon hung low over the forest, large and sharp, casting long ghostly shadows across the path Joris followed. He had tried for days to process the events, but the urge to understand, to escape what he had unleashed, drove him back into the forest. His heart pounded, every step an echo of fear. He knew he was not alone. Something or someone was watching him, waiting patiently, as if it was the breath of the forest itself. He still couldn't understand how last night had ended. He seemed to disappear into the woven threads of mist Elise had cast around him, and the next moment he lay alone in the dark on the cold forest floor. As if all the memories and events had never happened and he was merely imagining them. He honestly didn't know if he was slowly going mad or if all this was based on reality. This thought gnawed at him, and he couldn't let it go. He had called in sick to work again and was resting during the day so he could go back into the forest in the evening, like a hungry wolf who had been presented with a piece of meat that only needed to be found. Suddenly, he felt it. A cold, soft touch on his arm. The thread. The first movements had been subtle, but now the yarn coiled around his wrist, alive, intelligent, almost hungry. He tried to shake it free, but the thread was stronger than he could contain. And then he saw her again. Elise stood in a clearing, her silhouette clear in the moonlight. Her long hair barely moved, but her eyes glittered in the mist, sharp and hollow at the same time. In her hands, she held her knitting needles, their points glinting like sharp teeth. Around her, the air itself seemed to pulse, like a woven cloth of wool and thread fluttering in the wind. "Would you like me to knit for you?" she whispered. Her voice was soft, almost seductive, but beneath it lay a menace that allowed no mistaking. Joris felt the thread creeping along his legs again, higher and higher, like a living snake. The world seemed to turn, and yet stand still at the same time. He realized that this wasn't a night like the previous ones. This was Elise's nightbloom, the moment when she seemed to come fully alive in the forest, hunting everyone who crossed her path, as if she had a stronger force and presence than on previous nights. He had read ghost stories about spirits that were at their most powerful under a full moon or other circumstances. This was called the nightbloom, the moment you'd rather not encounter these kind of entities. He realized that tonight Elise's nightbloom had begun. The scent of wet earth and sheep's wool filled the air. In the distance, he heard soft cries, probably from other victims, trapped in the fog of threads slowly closing. As he tried to step closer, he felt the thread wrap around his torso, tight and cold. His breath caught as he saw the shapes of the pattern she was creating, a vast, woven facade of life and death, slowly closing around him. Each victim before him had been a stitch in this endless pattern. Elise began to move, slowly, almost ritualistically. It seemed like a dance of obsession, every moment careful and perfect. Joris suddenly understood. She wasn't just a ghost terrifying people, she was an artist, and her canvas was life itself. He felt the paralyzing power of her presence, but something deep within him wanted to understand, wanted to see why she had become this way. In his mind, the film replayed. He saw the various memories of her life, the loneliness, the obsession with perfection, the anger, and the sadness. He felt a strange compassion for her, a woman who had never received the love and understanding she sought. But compassion offered no protection. The thread cut closer to his shoulders, and her whisper grew louder, all around him. The pattern awaits. It's time for you to join me. And then it happened. A sudden movement of her hand, and the thread shot up, writhing like living snakes, determined to finish their work. The mist in the forest seemed to close in around him, while Joris felt he had no choice left. Every moment of doubt brought him closer to the fabric of her revenge, her loneliness, her art. Just when he thought all was lost, he heard another sound, a soft, rhythmic tapping, different from that of her knitting needles, a sign that perhaps he wasn't completely alone. Someone or something that could save him? Or was it merely his imagination, in its final desperation, creating another delusion to help him through the last seconds of his life? This story continues in the next episode. Will you still keep listening?